Hello and welcome to the Casual Tryhard Podcast, episode 12. I'm Brian.
And I'm James.
And per usual, we're going to tell you where you can find us, but first, some of you might be actually seeing us.
It's crazy. We're on the internet.
Yeah, this is weird. We really have faces for podcasts, or at least me. At least me. So anyway, you can find us on Twitter at Casual Tripod.
You can find us on Facebook at Casual Tryhard MTG. You can also email us at casualtryhardmtg@gmail.com.
So I am not technologically advanced enough to bring you visuals.
Yeah.
And so
You guys are lucky you get a podcast every week. So.
Yeah, it's a struggle. So we'd like to introduce, I don't know if he likes to stay behind the camera or he'll yell at something out, our, I guess, producer.
Sure. Producer Juan.
Juan is bringing you the lights and sounds that you are seeing in front of you.
Yep. You can thank him for having a look at us.
Yeah, so I guess it's all his fault.
Yeah.
If you think, man, they look stupid, just go back to the audio version. It'll be fine. So we're going to do something a little different than we've done previously, and we're going to actually talk about a Magic product.
Yeah, we are going to review the Challenger decks. Should be coming out next week. They have done these once in the past, and they went over pretty well. Hopefully these ones go over as well. They are more competitive decks than what you normally get in the Planeswalker decks. They're taken right from actual tournament decks that have put up real results. Obviously, they scale them back a little bit so they can turn a profit, but they are a great stepping stone to get into like a more competitive FNM.
So the tournaments they actually come from are the fall, I guess now Mythic Championship.
Yep.
So the decks that did well at the what was Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica, they take those as the template. They pick like the four kind of highest performing decks, or the kind of the four most different decks that did well, and then they they basically take those lists, make them a deck with some changes. They make some card choices with the idea of instead of giving you four of a card, they might give you two of that card and then one of another card and one of another card. So then you can like test those different cards out instead of being locked into like four of something. You can be like, oh, I really prefer this other card. I like the way the deck plays when I draw this. I want more of these. So it gives you some space to
A little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, to test and to tinker as opposed to just being locked directly into the Pro Tour list.
Yep.
So what we want to do is kind of go over what the decks are and then what we thought would be good changes to make to the decks to make them better.
Yeah, so for most of the decks, there's one deck that we didn't do this for. But for most of the decks, we have a couple different tiers or levels of upgrades. Usually we start out with a fairly cheap upgrade, so you might be in like the total cost of the deck with the upgrades for less than $50. It'll give you a good jumping off point for standard. Then we have a little bit higher level, maybe around like an additional $40, $50 expenditure. And then for a couple decks, we actually have different builds all together, so you can kind of take the deck in two different directions, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So, we are. If you have the video podcast, like you should be like the list might pop up. But for everyone to follow along in the show description, we built these decks in Goldfish, and I will put all the links in the show description.
Yep.
So when we're talking about United Assault version 1, you can go to Goldfish and follow along, so you're not trying to like listen and like visualize all the cards.
Feverishly write down the changes.
Yeah. And, if you're in your car, don't look at a list and drive. Not
recommended.
No. If you crash, I have a disclaimer. I'm safe. All right, so don't put that on me. So I guess one thing to kind of mention at first, how much are the Challenger decks to start with? Like, what's the? I guess we do MSRP still.
Yeah, I think these still have an MSRP. They are $29.99, so they're right at $30. Like I said, that $30 price point with minimal changes is going to give you a really good jumping off point. What we tried to do was keep the first level, including the cost of the Challenger deck, under $50.
Yes, and then you can have a deck that is competitive at FNM.
Right. You're not going to get laughed out of FNM.
Yeah. So we're going to just kind of work through each of the decks, and we're going to start with the white one. Mm-hmm. So we're going to start with United Assault. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to work through the changes we made to the United Assault deck. So, like, it's not like you're going to take these cards that we tell you to take out and, like, set them on fire. You can always rebuild kind of the starting deck or kind of find a kind of a mishmash of the two decks that you like.
Yeah, there's nothing saying that the decks that we built are the end-all, be-all, best thing you're going to come up with. If you have, a slightly different meta around you, or if you just really like one of the cards that we cut, like, there's no reason you can't.
So we wanted to try to make the deck a little more aggro and maybe have some things that are a little stickier.
Yeah.
To kind of make you more resistant to removal. So we cut the life gain package.
Yep.
So we cut the Healer's Hawk, the Lead-In Vanguard, and the Ajani's Pridemate.
Yep. What did we add in place of those?
So we added some more resilient one drop. So we added Hunted Witness.
Right.
Which when it dies you get a 1/1, so it gives you it's a little more resilient to removal.
Yep.
And we added Snubhorn Sentry.
Which is an 0/3, so it blocks real well right off the rip. It's still a 1-drop, so it comes down on curve before you get into your Venerated Loxodons or whatever.
And then it becomes a 3/3 when you have the City's Blessing. So this deck dumps its whole hand real fast.
Yep.
So it's a 3/3 pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
So those were the 1-drops we changed. And then we changed some of the Johnny's Pridemates.
Yep.
Like kind of our big purchase in this build of it was Tithe Taker.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 2/1 that makes all your opponent spells cost 1 more and abilities cost 1 more if they do them on your turn.
Right.
And it has
Afterlife 1.
Afterlife 1.
Yep.
Couldn't remember what the ability was.
Yep.
So if it dies, you get a 1/1.
Yep. 1/1 flyer, which is relevant.
Right. So we did that, and then we wanted to get the Venerated Loxodons in there. Those are what makes the deck explosive.
Yeah, we really jacked up the number of 1-drops in this deck. So that you can, like, turn 1 1/drop, turn 2 1-drops, turn 3 Loxodon, and all your guys are huge.
Again, Loxodon, if you don't know, is 4 and a white for a 4/4 that has Convoke. And whatever creatures convoked it, get a +1/+1 counter.
Yeah.
So you can cast your Loxodon with only 2 lands in play because you've dumped out enough 1-drops.
And then they're all huge.
Yeah, another 1-drop we put in the deck was Trusty Rusty, Rushwing Falcon.
Yep.
He's a 1/2, which is good against, like, Goblin Chain Whirler.
Yeah, so basically what we did was we swapped that 1-for-1 with the Healer's Hawk, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So we got rid of the life gain because it's not really relevant in the package we're playing anymore. But that second point of toughness is important when you're playing against Goblin Chain Whirler.
Yeah. And so we also got rid of the pump spell that was being played in the deck when Guilds was out was Pride of the Conquerors.
Yep.
We've replaced that with a better pump spell.
Yeah, way better.
And that is Unbreakable Formation.
Yep.
So it's 1 more mana. It's 1 in the white. If you cast, it has Addendum. If you cast it on your turn, I guess if you cast it basically during your main phase, your creatures get Vigilance, Indestructible, and a +1/+1 counter if it's cast on your main phase.
Right. Otherwise, it's just indestructible, right?
It's Vigilance and Indestructible.
Vigilance and indestructible.
Right. So it plays double duty.
Yep.
So it can get your creatures big and get you in for an attack.
Or it's Wrath Protection.
Right. So if your opponent plays Kaya's Wrath, you can have your 3 mana up, and basically it's a 3 mana counter target Kaya's Wrath.
Right.
And lets your creatures live, so then you get another attack with them.
Or if your stuff is already big, it can help you out in combat. You're not going to get the +1/+1 counter, but if combat's can go your way, if you're going to keep your guys around, you can flash make all your stuff indestructible.
Yeah,
pretty
like
good.
they double block one of your creatures, and you make it indestructible. And now they've taken enough damage because of the double block that you win the next turn if you get to attack.
Yep.
So it gives you a little more game.
Yep.
So we've kind of really leaned more on the Venerated Loxodon package, which is kind of the hallmark of the best of one deck. And this deck is a deck, if you like a deck that just sometimes has it.
Yeah,
Where
this deck has it.
You look at your opening hand and you're like, oh, I'm going to have flat 4 creatures or 5 creatures on turn 3 that are all 3 to 4 power.
Yeah.
And if that's good enough, I win. This is the kind of deck for you because like you can just get under everyone.
Yep. Also, a lot of these cards that we're making changes with in this level 1 upgrade are like commons and uncommons.
Yeah, I
like
think
the Tithe Taker, Venerated Loxodon, and Unbreakable Formation are either
the only rares.
Yeah, they're all rares. Everything else is
And like
common.
I think Venerated Loxodon's $1. Unbreakable Formation's maybe $1.
This whole, I priced it out. These were Goldfish prices as of Saturday. I priced this stuff. And the level 1 upgrade was $8.37. So you're under $40.
Yeah. And now you basically have 2 builds of the deck.
Yep.
You have the life gain build, and then you have this other more like 1-drop focus build.
Yeah, more aggro.
Yeah. So in level 2, we put in some of the more powerful cards that were more expensive.
Yeah.
We brought in
We added 2 histories, 2 more history Benalias.
yeah.
And 2 Legion's Landings. And we also swapped one of the Venerated Loxodons for another Unbreakable Formation.
Yeah. Right, and like if you wanted to, again, you're free to like be like, no, I want the 4th Venerated Loxodon. You can mess with the numbers.
Yeah. Yep, that's fine.
So something that it depends on what the prices do.
Yeah.
But the kit itself comes with 2 Legion's Landings and 2 History of Benalias.
Yeah.
It might just be cheaper to buy 2 kits than to buy them separately. So that's something when you're kind of looking at it.
Yeah, I think when I was doing prices, I'm pretty sure History of Benalias were about $8.
Yeah.
And Legion's Landings were about $5. So you're almost the price of another kit.
Yeah. And then you could maybe flip the other stuff, or if you have a friend who might want to play, like you can give them like most of the deck. You can just beat up on them and feel good about yourself. But they can learn how to like tap mana and stuff. So you can like have almost a whole nother deck to like let someone use.
Yep. Right. So like we said, you can either buy another kit or buy the 2 History Benalias and Legion's Landings on your own. That's going to be right around like the $30 price point ish. One other change that we had talked about making was to the sideboard. We can cut 1 Remorseful Cleric that doesn't really have a whole lot of use in this meta right now, and 1 Knight of Grace for 2 of the M19 Ajani. Ajani Adversary Tyrants. Would have made the list a little bit more expensive, so I didn't want to throw it in like the mandatory build. They're running about $12 a piece. They give you a little bit more game post board.
Yeah, so he puts +1/+1 clowners on up to 2 creatures.
Yep, and he brings stuff back out of the graveyard.
Yeah, and I have no idea what his ultimate does.
Makes
a bunch of cats?
Yeah, 3 lifelinking cats every turn.
Yeah. So it's a way for you to have more game against control. So like if you have your Ajani out and they cast Kaya's Wrath, you can minus your Ajani and bring back a creature, so you can rebuild your board faster.
Yep.
So it just gives you more game and a little more staying power.
Yep.
Than just having more creatures in your board. So this deck, like I said, this deck is fun. I've played it.
Yeah, the History of Benalias are a really big upgrade. There are a lot of random knights in the deck. Dauntless Bodyguard is a knight. Benelish Marshal's a knight.
So those are the big ones.
Yeah. So the bonus from History of Benalia is pretty big.
And there are just games where you go turn 3 history, turn 4 history that your opponent can never win then.
Yeah, I've scooped many times to the second history.
Like the second history just wins you every game it resolves pretty much. So like just having more of those to have those draws that are just unbeatable is really important.
Yep.
And would really take the deck. Like the version 2 build is basically a tier 1 deck.
Yeah.
Right. The version 1 build is close, but I think the version 2 build is definitely tier 1. And then you would still have a little bit of money left over if there were things that you wanted to tinker with in the sideboard.
Yep.
Like you could definitely do that, but you would definitely have a competitive deck that you could go to FNM with and 3-1 or win an FNM with.
Absolutely.
So I think that is all of our Knights Husseini
Knights who say me.
Ni! No! No, it's not that. It's ni. No.